From Washington, D.C., trial attorney, partner with Brown Rudnick, LLP, lead attorney for Johnny Depp during his defamation case, represents clients in all kinds of complex litigation, commercial litigation. Ben Chew back with us. Ben, great to see you.
Great to see you, Vinny. Great to be back. Thank you.
I want to get your reaction. It seems like Gwyneth Paltrow's team, she's an A-lister. You have a lot of experience representing an A-lister, Johnny Depp. Doesn't get much bigger than Johnny Depp. In handling the attention at the courthouse, it looks like they're very concerned about pictures being taken inside the courtroom and pictures being taken outside of the courthouse, so much so that Gwyneth at one point is covering her face. What are your thoughts about that and what it's like for these A-listers?
Vinny, as my father would say, I am in violent agreement with you. What has been depicted outside that courthouse is nothing compared to what you've seen in other cases, certainly nothing compared to the Depp case. She needs to lose that blue notebook. I think it comes across as imperious. As you said so well, the courthouse is a public square. This isn't a family vacation away from the crowds when you have a legitimate expectation of privacy. This is a courthouse, and she's not merely a defendant. She also has her own counterclaim, albeit a symbolic one. So she has to be and act like any other litigant in the courtroom, and I think she and her lawyer do her no service when she's playing the part of a prima donna and looking like a sad sack when she's sitting there at the stand. The other thing I noticed from your coverage of yesterday, and this may have just been nervousness or an accident, but I understand that she didn't stand up when the judge and jury came in. That, intentional or not, comes off as very disrespectful. It's very important for the attorneys and the clients to get together before the trial and choreograph everything in advance. If they're focusing on things like photographs at this point, I think they're focusing on the wrong thing.
You know, she's going to have to testify, right? She's going to have to do that. And to me, I always think that, especially if you're someone as high profile as her, this may be the first time some people in that jury box have ever been in a room with a celebrity. To me, it was interesting during your trial that Johnny Depp always looked like he was very much, he was comfortable, number one, but number two, he understood that, you know, people were there and people would be looking. You just got a different sense of his being while he's just sitting there.
I agree, Vinny, and a lot of this is just who he is, but he was inherently respectful of the judge. He was respectful of the deputies. He was respectful of the jurors. He knew that they were donating a lot of time to something that was very important to him, and he really appreciated it, and it came through in the way he behaved himself in the courtroom, which was quite sincere.
All right, Ben Chew's going to stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about how do you prepare an A-lister to testify in a case that is going to come down to the credibility of your client versus your adversary in this case, which would be the optometrist. How do you get them ready for that? I mean, they know how to prepare to shoot a movie, but how different is that when you're talking about testifying in front of a jury and then facing cross-examination? We're going to do that, plus coming up next hour. In St. Johns County, Florida, heartbreak in the courtroom. 13-year-old Tristan Bailey was stabbed 114 times by her classmate, 14-year-old Aiden Fucci. Day 2 of his sentencing hearing, and the judge listening to powerful victim impact statements. We are live from the courthouse with the latest.
Not only is she not here, she was ripped from us with utter malice and evil in the most hideous way possible.
Gwyneth Paltrow,
the Hollywood actress, being sued for a ski collision.
This is a he said, she said on the slopes.
The injured skier claims Paltrow ran into him, causing serious physical harm.
I'd like to be vindicated.
She denies the allegations and is countersuing
for $1.
Now, a jury will decide, and Court TV will bring it all to you.
The Gwyneth Paltrow ski crash case. Live coverage weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
About 6 years ago, Ms. Heard made some quite heinous and disturbing, brought these disturbing criminal acts against me that were not based in any species of truth, but never did I myself reach the point of striking Ms. Heard in any way, nor have I ever struck any woman.
Johnny Depp, I mean, on the stand, unlike any witness I've ever seen in my career here at Court TV, the way he turned phrases, the level, the demeanor, and the rapport with the jury. It was amazing to watch. His attorney, Ben Chu, there he is in court with him, is with us tonight. And we're talking about Gwyneth Paltrow. It's going to be a credibility battle in this case as well. So, Ben, how do you first prepare an A-list celebrity, an actor, you know, Johnny Depp, Gwyneth Paltrow, both actors, to prepare to testify, to tell their story? And what impact does their background as actors have in this whole process?
The first thing, Benny, I think the lawyer needs to do is to resist the natural temptation to try to control things. This is the client's opportunity, whether it's an actor or not an actor, to tell his or her story. And as you said, whichever of the two parties is the most likable and the most credible is going to win. So what we did with Johnny was to take a step back and let him tell us his story, which he did largely in a chronological way, and have him tell that story the way he wanted to say it, and then we back the questions in from there. So that way he was able to speak in his own voice. It wasn't the attorney's. In fact, I think Jessica Myers, who conducted the direct of Johnny and defended his cross, and we'll get to cross in a moment, it was masterful because many people didn't even recognize or remember her questions, which is exactly how it's supposed to be. What they remembered was Johnny and his testimony. And that's the way we wanted. Camille Vasquez and Jessica Myers spent countless hours with him, listening to him, and the questions really came later. The questions were almost an afterthought and a means to enable him to tell his story the way he wanted to tell it.
Amazing to hear how that all came together, because it was so well done. You didn't really, you're right. You don't remember the questions. You may not remember who was questioning Johnny Depp, and that's what you want. So let's get to the other part now. This is the part where you've got an A-lister. A-listers are used to controlling every situation. When they're in a room, they are in charge of the room. But when you're on cross-examination, you're not in charge. You've got to answer some questions. So how do you prepare someone of that stature to be in that position?
Well, we gave that a lot of thought, and ultimately what we decided to do was to move outside of our core team. That is the people who'd spent so much time with Johnny through the course of discovery and through the trial. And we brought in a wonderful lawyer from our Boston office, Wayne Dennison, who is actually, in reality, a very nice guy, but he can be a voracious cross-examiner. And we told Johnny that we were going to bring him in, who became quite knowledgeable about the case, but at the time he didn't know that much about it, which actually was a plus. And he went after Johnny very hard in a mock cross-examination. And the cross-examination that he did of Johnny in practice was much more difficult than what he ultimately faced at trial. And I think that was a really good preparation. We brought in someone, outside of our core team because we didn't want any we didn't want any residual blowback because it's really important, to go hard. And it would have been hard for us, emotionally and otherwise, to do what really had to be done. So by the time he went up on cross, I think you can see he didn't get angry. That's the one thing, especially the nature of that case, which was an alleged abuse case. The last thing you wanted your client to appear was angry. So he was well prepared. He never lost his temper. He was clever. He was witty. He was serious, and he was truthful.
So finally, what advice would you have for Gwyneth Paltrow when it's time for her to take the stand in this he said, she said ski accident case?
Well, first of all, obviously, the cardinal rule is to tell the truth, to tell it in your own words, not use legalese or words suggested to you by your attorneys. To the extent that there are weaknesses in her story, she should embrace them rather than hide from them. I don't know in this case whether there are or whether there are any blind spots in her story, but I don't think she should run away from them. And were I representing her, I would have someone very difficult come after her in a mock cross-examination so that she's ready for it and she reacts in the proper way.
Yeah, we're looking at the videotape from some arguments that were done. She's not looking happy. She's not looking comfortable. In this particular moment, the jury's out of the courtroom, so that's not a problem. How about general demeanor during the course of the case?
General demeanor is very important. As you pointed out before, Vinny, you have to assume that at any given moment, one of the jurors is going to be looking at you as the client. And that goes for the lawyers as well, but especially the principals. This case, as the Depp case, is all about the two principals, and all eyes are going to be on them at every moment. So they have to be at their best, not slouching, not grimacing, not reacting to negative testimony. They have to use their acting abilities to retain their composure. And I assume that she's being instructed in that way.
Ben Chu, always great to have you on the program. Appreciate your insight. I know you're busy with a lot of high-profile cases that are happening, so we really appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Vinny. Really appreciate it.